First of all, PayPal, please. And secondly, racism is terrible, but it's also a big business. And recently in Toronto, a revered principal, 60 years old, committed suicide because he was harassed so much by the professional anti-racism people hired by the school board. And this same person and corporation have been hired by banks and all the big corporations who want to get on about anti-racism, when in fact, my contention is that she was creating more racism than anybody else. Duane Gibson is my guest today, and you are thoughtful. I can tell you just thinking about what I just said now, because we don't rehearse these, is that, are you finding, do you agree with me, that the anti-racism business actually creates more racism in many circumstances?
First, it breaks my heart what happened to that principal, and that it was allowed to draw out like that.
But that's part of the business, though.
It is part of the business, and it's kind of part of the business that I'm in, but I'm not in just anti-black racism. I subscribe to that we have to teach our kids Black Canadian history, and there's a big difference between the two.
Right.
And one big difference is, I do not believe that our kids should just be taught that Black people have been portrayed negatively, and not hear about the good things about Black people. To not hear about role models and heroes, but just to be taught that there was a lot of bad things done to Black people.
But that's just like in all circumstances, though, because you can't say all white people or all Black people or all yellow people, because one thing that gets me is that there are some really bad people who are white and bad people who are Black. Yeah. And the bad people, when they're caught, say, oh, racism. And you know it's absolute bullshit when they're crying. But that reduces the real scourge of racism when it's abused like that.
I believe it does. And I believe that too much racism is happening with our kids now, that they feel comfortable saying slurs to each other and just portraying them as jokes. So I think we need to address things like that. I believe that as Canadians, one of the things that hurt me about that story about the principal was that this person had argued, reportedly, allegedly, that Canada is worse for racism in the United States. And this gentleman spoke up and he argued that is incorrect.
And he argued the facts.
Because I find it very difficult to believe that racism is worse in Canada. Anybody who's traveled to the United States knows there is a big difference as soon as you cross the border.
Well, the United States did have institutionalized racism, slavery. Yeah. Canada never did. They got rid of slavery before anybody else. And, yes, there was a little bit, and that was reprehensible, but Canada has been, and from your experience in small towns, pretty open.
Yeah, and I think the other biggest thing is, why do we have to compare them? Racism is worse here, racism is worse there. Racism is still a problem, but we can address it. And the way we address it is by when somebody speaks up, you listen to them. So we have to take everyone's word as valid, including a white man, because that is part of the discussion.
And your word is more than valid. Duane, thank you very much. A little bit more than 3 minutes. I know that many of you viewers are experiencing tough times with those pointless Trudeau taxes. You're watching every dollar, so are we. We run a very lean operation, which is why I'm asking this question of you now. If you know of any companies who want to advertise on this station, good people watch it, as you know, from coast to coast to coast. Please let us know. And in the meantime, please subscribe and PayPal.